Hello, hello, hello. I am the Linux Mensch. Recently, I did a video where I took a virtual machine of Windows 10, I partitioned the drive, and I installed Debian. So I have a virtual machine that's a dual boot with Debian and Windows 10. Now, I also did this with a real bare metal computer, but not on camera, because that computer doesn't have camera equipment and my microphone and everything hooked up to it. But even though I did it off camera with a real bare metal computer, I have a dual boot situation with Windows 10 and Debian 12. And like I said, I also did one in the virtual machine on camera and made a video about it a week or two ago. Now, let's say you want to go in there and repartition the drive so that one of the machines is smaller and one of them is larger. How would you go about doing that? Today, I'm going to show you. So let's get to it. I'm in a virtual machine of Windows 10 that's a dual boot with Debian 12. And let's go and take a look at it. So I'm going to right click the start menu and I'm going to go up here to disk management and I'm going to click that on and there it is. So this 100 meg partition is an EFI partition that Windows automatically put in it when I installed Windows 10. Right now, this Windows drive is 63 gigabytes. And this is my Windows drive right here. This is my Debian 12 drive because this is a dual boot. The hard drive is partitioned. So this 58 gigabytes is my Debian partition, and this 1 gigabyte is my Debian swap partition. Now, normally I don't use a swap, but when I installed Debian, it automatically put a 1 gigabyte swap partition in, which is not bad. I don't care. It's not wasting space. This half a gig partition is a healthy recovery that Windows 10 put in when it installed it. So like I said, this is a dual boot. If I reboot, it's going to automatically go into Debian. Let's say I want to make my Debian partition smaller or larger. Doesn't really matter. Now, in the video where I did my Windows 10 and my Debian dual boot, near the end of the video, I said, let's say you don't want to have a dual boot anymore. You want to delete your Debian and you want to put your Windows 10 back to normal. This is what I showed you how to do it. In that video, I said, just click this on. This is my Debian partition. Right click it. Click delete. And then you go into this partition, which is the Windows partition. Right click it and expand. Right here, you click extend volume and you can extend this volume right to here. Actually, right to here. Because for the Debian one, we would click on the 1 gigabyte swap, which this is, right click it and delete it. Then we could go to here and click on my Debian installation, right click it and delete it. And then we'd have all this free space. Then we could click on this. And if you see right now, extend volume, it's a dead link. But if we go in and click on this swap and delete it, which I'm not going to do, click on this partition, which is my Debian installation, and delete it. Then when we click on this one and right click it, this extend volume will be black because these two partitions will be deleted. And even though this is a dead link right now, as far as extending it, once we delete this partition and this one will be able to extend it, and we can extend our Windows partition all the way to the end. And I know it works because I did it on camera. I have a video that I made doing this a week or two ago. So I know it works. So But let's say we don't want to delete my Debian partition and put my Windows back to normal. Let's say we just want to shrink my Debian partition or increase it, or increase the Windows partition. How would you do that? Because when I click on my partition for Debian, if I right click it, there's extend or shrink, but they're dead links. You can't do anything. The only thing I can do is delete it. And the same thing with my Windows. Right now, well, I can shrink it, but I can't extend it. So what am I going to do? So this is what I'm going to do. I am going to log out of here. I'm going to shut down. I'm going to power off, and I'm going to shut down. Now, the thing is that when you start messing around with partitions, there's always the possibility that you could damage your drive. Probably not, but you could. You could lose data. So you should always make sure you have your data backed up. And also, there's a possibility that you could destroy your installation. And the hard drive may not be damaged, but you might have to do a fresh installation. So when you're partitioning your drive, there's always a risk. So you should always make sure you have your data backed up and be aware that there's a risk. Okay? If I was doing this with a bare metal, I would take a thumb drive with either MX Linux or Antix Linux, because the live ISO of Antix Linux and MX Linux, it has Gparted right on the live ISO. So if this was a bare metal computer and I wanted to do this, I would take a thumb drive, a bootable thumb drive with MX Linux or Antix Linux, plug it into my computer, turn on the computer, hit F12 or delete or whatever that button happens to be, and get into the boot menu and boot onto the live ISO. And then I would use Gparted. But because this is a virtual machine, I'm going to attach a live ISO of Antix Linux to the virtual machine. Okay, let's do that. So I'm going to click on CD-ROM, and I'm going to click on Antix ISO. I'm going to apply it. Then I'm going to go to my boot options and make sure I boot onto the live ISO in my dual boot of Windows 10 and Debian. Now that my face is moved, I have to apply it. Let's apply it. Let's play and let's open it up. So now with my Windows 10 and Debian 12 dual boot virtual machine, I'm going to boot into the Antix live ISO. Now what I'm going to do, because this is a virtual machine, I am going to, well, let's just move this down a bit. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to right click. I'm just going to go into the terminal. Let's do xrandr S1360 by 768. Okay, that's better. And let's just fix this wallpaper while we're at it. There we go. That's better. Okay. So this is Antix Linux live ISO. I'm going to click on this start menu. I'm going to go to app select. And I'm going to type in Gparted. And I'm going to click it on. It's asking for my password. Oh, I think the password is demo. Because don't forget, this is a live ISO. Yes, it is. The password is demo. So if you're using a live ISO of Antix Linux or MX Linux, and you need to put a password in, the password is demo. And of course, once you do your installation, if you install Antix Linux or MX Linux, of course, you're going to make your own passwords. Okay, so here we are. So this 68 gigabytes is my window partition. This 58 is my Debian partition. And here's my swap partition, and it looks like it's locked. See a little lock there? Now I could delete the, if I would have just stayed in Windows, it would have let me delete the swap partition. But in here it's locked for some reason. So my Debian partition right now is 58 gigabytes. Let's say I want to bring it down to 25 gigabytes and increase my Windows partition. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to click on resize. Now it's asking me, do I want to free the space preceding it, which would be between this and my Windows, or free the space following it between that and the swap? And I'm going to free space preceding it because I want to make more space for my Windows partition. Okay. And I'm going to free up 25,000 megabytes because you can see it's in megabytes. So 25,000 megabytes would be 25 gig. Okay. So I'm going to type in 25,000 and I'm going to resize it. Now it's warning you, moving the partition may cause the system to fail, may cause damage. I'm just going to click OK. No, it also said it could take a long time. So if it looks like it's going to take a long time, sorry. So it says here, one operation is pending. So I'm going to click on the check mark. Are you sure? And I'm going to apply it. Okay. So now it just shrunk. It's shrinking my Debian partition by 24 gigabytes. It's making it 24 gigabytes smaller. And now you can see it's making my Debian partition to be 33 gigabytes or 33.5 gigabytes instead of 58. And then after it's done that, I'm going to increase my Windows partition from 68. I'm going to add 25 gigabytes to it. Okay. And while it's doing this, it's taking time to do this. While it's doing this, I'm going to pause the video. So don't go away because I'll be back. Okay, so that took about 5 minutes and it's complete. So now we have this free space here, 24 gigabytes. So now I'm going to close this and I'm going to click on this one. This is my Windows partition and I'm going to resize. So now it's free space preceding it is 0, but free space following it is I have 25,000 megabytes or 25 gigabytes to do. So I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to grab this with my mouse and I'm going to go right along. And now I've increased the size to 95 gigabytes or 95,000 megabytes. And I'm going to click on this to resize. And now it says here, down here, one operation is pending. So let's go up here and click on the check mark. And it's giving me a warning. You could lose data. Make sure you backed everything up. I'm going to hit apply. And now it's doing this. So again, this is going to take maybe 5 minutes or so. So what I'm going to do is pause the video and come back. And then after that, I'm going to boot into my Windows to make sure everything is okay. Well, first of all, what I'm going to do is disconnect. I'm going to power down, disconnect the live ISO of Antix Linux. And then I'm going to boot into Windows and make sure everything is working. And then I'm going to boot into Debian to make sure that's still working. And look how fast that was. I didn't even have to pause the video. So I'm going to close this. So now we can see my Windows partition is 92 gigabytes and my Debian partition is only 33 gigabytes. I am going to close the Gparted. I'm going to close this and I'm going to power Antix down. So I'm going to log out and let's shut down. I'm going to shut down the machine. And of course, this is a virtual machine. And the virtual machine is shut down. And you do the same thing if this was bare metal. So if it was bare metal, you power down and pull out your thumb drive of Antix Linux. Now, because this is a virtual machine, I have to disconnect my ISO. So I'm going to go to here. This is Virt Manager I'm using, by the way. I'm disconnecting the Antix ISO. And and I had to move my face. Now I'm going to apply it. I say yes. Now the ISO is disconnected. Now I'm going to just fix the boot order. I'm going to unclick ISO and just leave my hard drive as the thing that's going to boot into. I'm going to hit apply. And now I'm going to move my face back. I just wanted to move my face so you could see that I'm clicking on the apply button, even though this is really not a video about how to use the Virt Manager. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to boot up. So let's see what happens. Let's make it full screen. And now I have the boot menu on a 10-second delay, so automatically it's going to boot it into Debian. Let's boot into it first. It's on a 10-second delay. You can see right here, it's counting down. And if I don't do anything, it's just going to boot right into Debian. And if I don't want to wait to 10 seconds, I can hit my enter button to make it boot into Debian faster so I don't have to wait 10 seconds. So it's booting into Debian. Let's see if anything's damaged. Let's see if it worked. And we're at the menu. And in this Debian installation, I have Cinnamon and Awesome installed. So let's just log into Awesome, put my password in, and we're in the awesome window manager. I know it looks like my Arch installation, but this is Debian. So let's open up that Xterm and let's do an EO fetch. So we can see we are in Debian 12. And let's clear the screen and let's do lsblk. So we can see it's reading SDA3, which is my Windows drive now. It's reading my Debian swap, which is 1 gig. And it's reading my Debian installation, which is 33 gig or 33.5 gig. Now let's close this and let's go into disk usage. This is GNOME disk usage. I don't remember if, oh yeah, I did put it in. So we can see here, this is my Debian. I have it's a 35 gigabytes hard drive, and I have 28 gigabyte available. Now we can click this on and look at it this way. Oh, so that didn't really take that long. So we can see my Debian installation is using 7.2 gigabytes right here. So let's go back here. Let's open up a terminal. Now in Debian, you have to do sudo when you reboot. So let's do sudo reboot. Oh, gotta put my password in. And it's rebooting, and now we're going to boot into Windows and see if that's working. So remember, I have a 10-second delay on my boot menu now. And it was 5 seconds, and I changed it to 10. It was 5 seconds by default, and I changed it to 10. So we have 10 seconds. Let's use my arrows to pause it. Once you hit your arrows, it's paused. And I'm going to go into Windows Boot Manager. Let's hit enter. And now it's going to boot into Windows if nothing is damaged. And I know it's going to work because I already did this off camera. Okay. So it's booting into Windows, and maybe I'm going to pause the video because it takes a long time to boot into Windows. I don't know, sometimes it boots into Windows fast and sometimes it takes a long time. So let me pause the video and I'll be back. Don't go away. So I'm at the login screen for Windows. I'm going to put my password in. And we've logged into Windows. And it's still loading up. Let's just wait till it loads up some of the stuff that goes on the bottom bar. And then we're going to check our drives. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on my file manager. I'm going to click on my C drive. And I'm going to right click it. I'm going to click on properties. And now we can see the capacity of my Windows drive is 92 gigabytes. I've used 25 with the installation. And I have 67 free space. Now let's cancel out of there and let's close this. And let's right click on the start menu. So I'm going to right click the start menu. I'm going to go to disk management, and it just takes a moment to open. I'm going to make it full screen. Just takes a moment to load up, and there it's loaded up. So now we can see I have my 100 megabyte EFI partition, which Windows installed automatically, and that was there before. At the very end, I have my 500 megabyte Windows Healthy Recovery partition, which was also there before from my Windows installation. I still have my 1 gigabyte Debian swap partition, right here. And now we can see my Debian partition, which was 58 gigabytes, is now down to 33.5 gigabyte. And my Windows partition, which was, I think it was 68 gigabytes, is now 92 gigabytes. And it worked. Now, so I know it works the other way because yesterday off camera, so I didn't film it, I used the same method to shrink my Windows partition and to make my Debian partition larger. So I took it from 25 gigabytes to 58 gigabytes. And then today on camera, I went in the opposite direction. I shrunk my Debian partition and made my Windows partition larger. And that's it. In this video, I showed how to take an installation that is a dual boot with Windows 10 and Debian 12 and how to resize your partitions and change the partition size of each installation. And it worked. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I am the Linux Mensch.